Jada Pinkett Smith, Devaluing Will Smith. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I'm going to provide you with further video analysis to enable you to understand the dynamic between a narcissist and the empathic victim. I know that many of you find it extremely useful for me to break down the behaviours in a video so that you can not only understand what's going on, having perhaps watched the footage yourself, you now get the expert view, but also where I talk about different aspects of the narcissistic dynamic, different facets of narcissism in other videos, you can see real-world examples of it, and I know that you find them particularly powerful. What I'm going to take you through in a series of videos is the analysis of the red table talk involving Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, where essentially the issue of their relationship problems and her entanglement with August are mentioned. What you're actually witnessing is the continued devaluation of Will Smith. I'm going to dissect what's actually going on so that you understand it. Remember, when we've established what a person is, we can then understand their behaviours through the relevant lens. If they're an empath, we see the behaviour through the lens of their emotional empathy. If the person's a normal, we see it through the reduced circle of empathy of a normal individual and differing empathic and narcissistic traits. Where we look at the situation through the lens of the narcissist, we're able to interpret those behaviours in terms of the pursuit of the prime aims, fuel and control, character traits and residual benefits. Time and time again, the uneducated about narcissism attribute the behaviour of a narcissist to something else, and they get it wholly wrong. For instance, I saw in the comments about an analysis that I did yesterday that someone was suggesting that Jada Pinkett Smith's behaviour was defiance in the face of being baited by the press pack. Completely wrong. That person doesn't understand narcissism, I suspect hasn't listened properly, but instead just comes into it with a rather narrow mind in terms of thinking, no, she's a strong independent woman who's facing off against the press pack. No. What some people also fail to understand, this isn't a judgment about saying whether a person is a good person or a bad person. You can make your minds up about that. I'm simply explaining to you why they're behaving in the manner that they are. It's as simple as that. But I'm applying my expertise, something that you're not going to find anywhere else, by other people that comment about those instances who don't realise that it's narcissism in action. We're going to go through the footage, pausing at appropriate points for me then to dissect what you've just seen. So, without further ado, let's get on with the footage.
This red table for me, just all the stuff that's going on in the press. Mm-hmm. I felt like it was important to come to the table to really clear the air. Somebody made a statement for me that wasn't a statement I made. Mm-hmm. That went cray-cray. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come to the table is the media, the headlines. We specifically never said anything. Yeah. We were purposely not saying anything. Any headline that says Jada said or Will said or the Smith said is not true. We specifically never said anything. Right. So coming to the table was like, we just felt like it got to the point where you guys...
We halt the footage approximately 49 seconds in. One point to make clear is sometimes it appears that what we're watching has been edited by the original producer of the material, and the edit doesn't necessarily show you that it's an edit. You might recall, for instance, when you're watching some news footage, they tend to sort of cause a slight flash on the screen so that you realise that this is an edited segment, that what the person is saying hasn't naturally flowed from what they've just said before. Here, there's no such technique, but it does appear that in instances there has been some editing taking place. So it's important to make that observation. So what have we seen in these first 49 seconds? Well, Jada Pinkett Smith starts off by explaining someone made a statement for me which was not a statement I made. Now, it's possible that an error could occur, they do, But it smacks of blame shifting, that she's basically saying somebody said something that I didn't make. It could occur, but more usually an individual that needs such control in the way that she does is unlikely to let that happen, and therefore issuing such a statement smacks of blame shifting. The two of them are talking to the press. Notice the difference in the way that they look at one another. She maintains that imperious look that we've seen many times before. She has that look of scrutiny about her, that she's sizing Will Smith up, unconsciously assessing him. And this is her narcissism shining through, as that background app, as I've described it, is watching him, looking out for signs of maintenance of control and threats to control. She shows no warmth. This is her husband that she sat opposite, not some stranger. She's been with this man for years. It's not some Johnny-come-lately that she's interviewing as part of her show, yet she exhibits no warmth towards him, in essence, her default setting. Contrast that with how Smith presents, and he looks concerned, hurt, pained by the experience. Part of him clearly doesn't want to be there, but of course, as is always the case, the leash has been yanked and he must respond. Otherwise, the consequences are ones that he doesn't want to endure, something, of course, that has happened repeatedly to him. Jada Pinkett Smith sits cross-legged, hands sometimes together, as if she's some kind of spiritual guru, which, of course, in her world, she believes herself to be, that she's there to dispense a dissection of their relationship, that she's there to explain that what she does is appropriate and must always be accepted, that she is enlightened, that she understands the whole picture. This sums up her arrogance, her magical thinking, the haughty way that she deals with Will Smith. Even the way that she sits is representative of her narcissism.
Say something.
Yeah, and to stop that cycle.
Yeah.
You know, there's people's feelings involved.
Right.
You know, and at the end of the day, I don't like how all of this came to be. Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's all love. Mm-hmm. Honestly. And I would usually not, you know, that would be something I wouldn't comment on at all.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like it's a situation that I consider private.
You just feel like it ain't really nobody's business.
Yeah.
But now Black Twitter has claimed it as their business.
But, you know, I feel like it's healing that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
Even though this is minuscule, I do feel like it's these kinds of things that create the world that we're in. Mm-hmm. And the idea of not communicating, not talking about it, not clearing the air, and just being as transparent. Mm-hmm. Just
Absolutely.
being transparent.
And I'm here with you.
Yeah, I thank you for that, because you've been on a hell of a journey with me.
Halting the footage after 1 minute and 59 seconds, what have we now learned? Well, Jada Pinkett Smith commenced this segment by explaining, you know, there's people's feelings involved. Her eyes are fixed. And then comes that rictus grin. Why is she grinning about this situation where it's largely a serious matter, that she's discussing her relationship with her husband in a public forum, the intimacies of it, and addressing the issue of some of the things that have gone wrong with it, namely the issue of the entanglement with August. Yet the grin comes, and it's an incongruous reaction. But as a result of the sensation that she unconsciously feels because of the fuel that's being provided by Smith and the sense of control that she has. Will Smith, by contrast, immediately after she says this, shows an expression of dejection and defeat. She then states, at the end of the day, I don't like how this came to be. That doesn't matter. It's all love. In the words of Oprah, what? It's word salad. It's completely meaningless what she's just said. But of course, in her world, She believes that that's entirely appropriate. It's the assertion of control through word salad, and throughout saying all of this, that fixed, predatory gaze remains. She then states, I feel like it's healing that needs to happen. Ah yes, trotting out the old healing, the fake empath at work here. And I know there's lots of stuff going on in the world right now, even though this is minuscule. So, in a sense, whilst the ins and outs of your relationship might be small beer when it's compared to famine and people suffering because of war, etc., but to many people they say, well, the state of your relationship is hugely important. It's not like you're complaining because you've not been able to buy the latest iPhone. If your relationship's tanking, that's pretty serious to most people. And therefore, for her to say that it's minuscule shows a degree of false humility. I know this is small beer compared to the ills of the world, but also it's devaluing behaviour because she's quite simply saying to Smith, the trials and tribulations of our relationship aren't that important, really, because in her world, they're not. She continues saying, I do feel like it's these kinds of things that create the world that we're in. An idea of not communicating, not talking about it, not clearing the air, and just being transparent. Just being transparent. This is the assertion of control again over Smith. It's facade management as she tries to make it seem as if she's got this false humility, or that she's trying to make it look genuine. And of course, we'll see just how transparent she is with regard to actually talking in terms which make any sense and provide any genuine admission shortly. Will Smith responds, I'm here with you. That signals that he's under control and he provides some fuel to her. Remember, the position of Smith is that he's the intimate partner primary source in this relationship with her. That means his fuel is highly potent. Because they're proximate, he's providing with her large amounts of fuel. His body language, the words he uses, the tone of those words, the expression in his face, the look in his eyes, it all amounts to a huge amount of fuel for her. She then states, I thank you for that, condescending, as you've been on a hell of a journey with me. Ah, the old journey word. Now, what have we gleaned from being 2 minutes into this footage? Well, first of all, she does the majority of the talking, which is the assertion of control, sense of entitlement. But she's not actually saying anything. Word salad, talking about healing, minuscule matters, it's all blah, blah, blah. Throughout all of this, we see the fixed stare, the insincere grin, the hallmarks of her particular type of narcissism. Will Smith, of course, is giving her a really good listening to. He looks uncomfortable. He doesn't really want to be there. He looks pained by this. And essentially he's there under duress. But does she care? Not a hoot. Because she has no emotional empathy for him. Note also the comment, you've been on a hell of a journey with me. Not, we've been on a journey together. You've been on the journey with me. Me first, you second. I lead, you follow. Demonstrates how she sees herself in relation to this particular relationship.
So that's what we're going to start with, is that this is a very personal journey that became very public.
Yes, absolutely.
For whatever reason.
So what happened, Jada?
Okay, so let's start with, I guess about 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was about 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Started a friendship with August.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually became really, really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it all started with him just needing some help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, me wanting to help his health, his mental state.
Because for me, that was the thing when Og first came around, he was really sick.
He was really sick, yeah.
And the outpouring for him from our family was initially about his health.
Yeah. And I mean, we found all those different resources, you know, to help pull him through. And
pausing at 3 minutes and 5 seconds of the original footage, what more have we learned? Well, this segment commences with Jada Pinkett Smith saying, this is a very personal journey that became very public. And then comes the grin again. There's nothing funny about this situation, but her narcissism relays her contentment to a degree as the situation, receipt of fuel, and the assertion of control, so back comes the rictus grin. Will Smith responds with, yes, but the look on his face suggests that he's about to be taken to the electric chair. Jada Pinkett Smith states, for whatever reason, dismissive, contemptuous. Finally, Will Smith gets a chance to ask a question. So, what happened, Jada? He asks. He looks hurt and uncertain. Okay, she responds, let's start with. And then comes the smug smile, the smirk. She's enjoying the receipt of his proximate fuel. She's enjoying the negative fuel that he's exuding because of the misery that he's enduring. And this isn't the first time that she's feasted on this. I guess about 4.5 years ago, I started a friendship with August and we became really, really good friends. Bear in mind, this is her son's friend, who is 25 to 30 years younger than her, and leaving aside any question about them making the beast with two backs, playing hide the sausage, pounding punani pavement, put all of that to one side. The very fact of being friends, but rather very, really, really good friends, with someone who's, 25, 30 years her junior, and is her son's friend, demonstrates a sense of entitlement, a lack of accountability, an absence of emotional empathy for both her son and Will Smith, and poor boundary recognition. She continues, and it all started with, he just needed some help. Blame shifting. He needed the help, so it was his fault that she had to give it. And, of course, at the same time, there's facade management. I'm a helpful person. I'm a kind person. He needed help, so I gave it to him. Now, I, for one, and I don't know if you agree with me, I wasn't aware that help constituted cheating on your husband by doling out lashings of spicy poontang to a much younger man. But hey, what do I know about help? Notice that Will is listening. He's not interrupting. He's letting her speak. He recognizes boundaries. He doesn't interrupt or talk over her. He's exhibiting his empathic trait of listening. She continues, me wanting to help his health, his mental state, and no doubt his penis, exhibits false empathy. Notice that Jada Pinkett Smith has this habit of moving her hands like a robot stuck polishing the air. She's done it 3 times already in this interview. It's being done for emphasis, but it's actually incongruous with what's being said and makes it almost look like she's doing air quotation marks, thus devaluing the content of what she's actually talking about. This is where her narcissism isn't quite working properly to get the matching response to the situation. If you haven't already listened to my video, The Imitation Game, go and do so, because it'll help you understand so much about the way that my kind function. But here, as that cherry picker has gone through the warehouse to pick out that package of appropriate responses to this situation, it hasn't got it quite right, because we keep seeing the robot polishing routine. And this isn't the last time you'll see it either. Will Smith states, for me, when August came first around, he was really sick. She mirrors him, joining in, really sick, and then she repeats them for emphasis. Assertion of control. She's staring again at Will Smith. Notice there's no warmth. She's scrutinizing him, monitoring him. She's in a state of alert to ensure, unconsciously of course, that control is maintained. Will Smith states, the outpouring from our family was initially about his health. Jada Pinkett Smith, exhibits a lack of sincerity, an absence of emotional empathy, and I mean, we found all those different resources, to help him pull through. False empathy, false compassion, facade management. As Smith is listening, his look now is more of simmering anger, as undoubtedly he's thinking, resources, namely your pussy. 3 minutes in, and we're seeing plenty of the narcissistic dynamic in action as she repeatedly asserts control over him. The difference in the countenances, her haughty, almost steely demeanour, the scrutiny of him, the fake empathy, the absence of emotional empathy for Smith, whereas he presents as someone who'd rather be anywhere else, that this is hurting him, This is painful to him and underpins her lack of emotional empathy for him by putting him through this. She will think, oh, this is something we must do. This is something we do. It's part of the healing. But that's just her grandiosity and facade management at work as part of her narcissism. Join me in part 2 as we continue the analysis of the devaluation of Will Smith.